They laughed at the woman in 12F until she performed a life-saving miracle for a billionaire. I will never forget the day everything fell apart, the day I found myself trapped in aisle 12F. It was supposed to be just another flight, another routine moment. But as soon as I boarded, I was met with snickers and sideways glances. They saw me, an ordinary woman, dressed in a faded sweater, hair frizzy from the humidity. I felt a heat rise in my chest, a familiar fire of embarrassment. Little did they know what was coming. As the plane soared through the clouds, whispers faded into a dull hum. I closed my eyes, inhaling the metallic taste of tension. Life had turned into a monotonous loop, job, bills, and dreams slipping away day by day. I was losing hope. My best friend had just moved across the country, leaving me feeling isolated, drowning in a sea of empty coffee cups and unanswered texts. The weight of loneliness pressed down on me, suffocating. It was then that I noticed him. In the window seat, a striking man with tousled hair and an expensive suit. He looked out over the clouds like he could conquer the world. I wished I had his confidence. Suddenly, he gasped. A terrible, rasping sound. My heart dropped. Panic rippled through the cabin as passengers turned toward him. Was he choking? I could see his hands tremble, his face pale against the vibrant blue of the sky outside. Instinct kicked in. Adrenaline surged through my veins. I didn't think. I just moved. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as I leapt from my seat. Step aside. I shouted, my voice cutting through the noise. I squeezed past the tight row of startled faces, their eyes wide with disbelief. The murmurs grew louder. Who does she think she is? She'll make it worse. I didn't care. His life hung in the balance. I knelt beside him, glancing at the terrified faces surrounding us. The air grew thick. I could feel the weight of their judgment, their laughter now twisted into anger and fear. I positioned my hands, the faint scent of fear and sweat mixing in the cramped space. Sweat pooled on my brow. Would I be able to save him? I pushed against his abdomen once, twice until I felt that rush of hope as he gasped for air, the miracle unfolding in front of me. Then silence fell. I looked up, breathless. The billion-dollar man blinked, eyes wide with astonishment. The murmur sank into an eerie quiet. I felt the magnitude of the moment crash around me. Their laughter had been replaced by disbelief. As he grasped my hand, his breath returning, I could see the mixture of gratitude and astonishment etched on his face. Would this change everything? Was I still just a woman in 12F? Or had I become more than that, if only for a moment? As the plane continued its journey, I was left with a knot of questions in my chest. Who was this man? What would happen next? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the plane settled into a smooth cruising altitude, the remnants of panic ebbed, but the atmosphere remained charged. A surreal calm enveloped the cabin, punctuated by the gentle hum of engines above. I could still feel the rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins, warming me against the chill of uncertainty that gripped my heart. The gravity of what had occurred, the life I had saved, was immense, yet the questions loomed heavier. Was this a fluke? A fleeting moment of significance in an otherwise mundane existence? Thank you, the man finally spoke, his voice a rasp but filled with sincerity. He clasped my hand tighter, the warmth of his grip grounding me. There was a flicker of vulnerability behind his confident facade, an unspoken bond forming in that small space between us. Fisher, where laughter had once resided. Don't mention it, I managed, my voice just above a whisper. For the first time, I felt their eyes. The other passengers were not only watching but processing the situation, re-evaluating their preconceived notions. They weren't laughing anymore, they were reconsidering. His name, I learned, was Ethan Cole, and despite the countless eyes boring into us, he presented himself with a disarming smile, an unexpected kindness blooming amidst the gray clouds of embarrassment. "I owe you more than just thanks. What can I do to repay you for saving my life?" His sincerity caught me off guard, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to bask in the glow of appreciation, the flicker of hope igniting within my chest. "I really don't need anything," I replied, embarrassed, struggling against the swell of emotions that threatened to surface. "Just be careful next time." I flashed a nervous grin, but it fell short of concealing my vulnerability. His gaze softened, and something unspoken passed between use and understanding of the fragility of life and the shadows that danced in each other's past. Yet as the flight continued, a tension knotted itself back into my stomach. My thoughts flickered back to my own problems, and the weight of my lowly life crashed down like a heavy thunderclap, negating the fleeting joy of that moment. While Ethan might have been a billionaire, I remained just the woman in 12F, burdened with mundane struggles that a simple miracle couldn't erase. Soon I caught myself stealing glances at him, watching as he engaged with others nearby, thanking the flight attendants, joking softly with the man by the window, all the while exhibiting an aura of charm that was magnetic. I felt a pang of jealousy twist in my heart. He had the ability to command a room, while I felt perpetually anchored in isolation's grip. "Are you all right?" Ethan leaned in closer, his voice edged with genuine concern. "You seem distant." I clenched my jaw, resisting the urge to spill my heart to him, to paint a portrait of my day-to-day struggles. "It's nothing," I replied lightly. "Really?" He peered deeply into my eyes, searching as if he could somehow navigate the depths of my turmoil. Just then, a sudden explosion of sound crackled through the cabin, the plane shook violently. Gasps filled the air, and I felt the world tilt beneath me. "What's happening?" I shouted, panic rising swiftly. Ethan's hand found mine again, his grip steadying as the passengers erupted into chaos, voices mingling in desperation and fear. The laughter had vanished entirely, replaced with anxious murmurs and shouts for calm. The flight attendants rushed down the aisle, their faces stern. They moved with a palpable urgency. I felt a storm brewing within not just from the turbulence but from the realization that the miracle I had performed began to fade against the impending peril looming outside. Ethan turned to me, his eyes fierce with a determination that ignited something bold within me. "Stay close," he said, his voice firm above the noise as the plane pitched again. I had saved a life once. Could I find enough courage to face whatever came next? And then, through the chaos, a stewardess emerged, breathless and wide-eyed, and whispered urgently into the cockpit channel. "We might have some engine failure. Prepare for an emergency landing." The sensation of dread seeped deep into my bones. My heart stuttered, caught in an internal tumult, as the passengers shared knowing glances, eyes growing wide with fear. My gaze darted over to Ethan, who looked straight back at me, his expression resolute. I knew, without a doubt, we were on the brink of an entirely different journey. The flicker of connection between us strengthened. We were struggling against unseen forces, tethered by an inexplicable bond that was rapidly spinning into something profound. But as turbulence threatened to consume us, I couldn't help but wonder, would we make it out alive? Where would this moment lead us, and how would it shape the lives we thought we knew so well? As the plane lurched again, my world constricted into a microcosm of fear and urgency. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, steady but laced with an underlying tension. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated and secure your seatbelts. We are experiencing some turbulence due to possible engine failure. We will attempt an emergency landing shortly." Ethan's fingers tightened around mine, anchoring me to the present, a shared strength rendering the impending storm a little less overwhelming. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. "We're going to be okay," he murmured, though I could see the shadows of doubt in his eyes. The commotion crescendoed around us as passengers clutched their armrests like lifelines, expressions shifting from confusion to panic. Instinctively, I took a deep breath, recalling the countless techniques I had memorized during my own moments of anxiety. I might be just a woman in 12F, but I refused to let fear claim me. Had already faced the abyss once today. "Ethan," I said, forcing calm into my voice, "let's help them." His brows furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" "Look around. I gestured toward a young mother 2 rows ahead, holding a toddler who was beginning to cry, the sound piercing through the chaotic din. "We can't just sit here." Before he could protest, I unbuckled my seatbelt, words of reassurance spilling from my lips as I moved, directing my focus outward, away from the horrifying uncertainty coiling in my stomach. "It's okay. You're safe," I said, softly kneeling beside the young mother, who looked up with panic-tinged eyes. "Just breathe with me." I inhaled deeply. Ethan followed, picking up on my intentions. Together, we navigated through the chaos, offering calm in small doses where we could. I focused on the child, making silly faces, bringing a smile to the tiny, tear-streaked face. In moments like this, every light shone brighter than the dark shadows looming overhead. As we moved down the aisle, an elderly man reached out, trembling. "What's happening? Are we going to crash?" His voice wavered, a life lived strewn across the fear of suddenly and violently losing it all. Ethan dropped to his knee beside me and placed his hand on the older man's wrist. "No, we're going to get through this. Just breathe, okay?" The stirrings within me felt profound, every person we connected with adding another thread to a tapestry I hadn't realized we were weaving in such a short time. For every face reflecting fear, our work to forge a path through minutiae of courage seemed to somehow lighten the load. Yet, in the distance grew the harrowing sense that despite our small victories, time was not on our side. An electric current of urgency surged in the air, particularly when the captain's voice returned, this time sharper and filled with an uncharacteristic edge. "Prepare for landing. Cabin crew, take your positions." We returned to our seats just moments before the plane tilted dangerously to one side, a collective gasp rising in the cabin as the descent pitched us forward. My heart thudded violently, each thump punctuated by a spike of determination. Ethan caught my gaze, mirroring my startled heartbeat with a fierce spark of hope. Even encased by gravity's weight, I felt encompassed within something deeply human, a shared resilience against the unknown. "Hold on," Ethan said, squeezing my hand once more. Beneath the cacophony of fear, our bond became a testament against despair. I could feel it knitting a tapestry of connection, unexpected yet pulsating with the weight of our uncharted futures. The plane landed hard, jolting every passenger within, and I could taste the metallic tang of fear on my tongue. But as we skidded down the runway, the shrill shriek of tires against asphalt broke the buzzing tension like a bubble preparing to burst. "Brace for impact," the captain shouted, his voice unwavering. I felt the rush of adrenaline surge again, so potent that even fear began to seem insignificant. Moments later, the plane came to an abrupt halt. Relief washed over us like a wave, followed almost instantly by the chaos that followed emergency landings, a cacophony of relief and fear intermingling amid the shouts of flight attendants. But just as we began to liberate ourselves from our seatbelts, I caught sight of Ethan's face going pale, his eyes widening with an alarm I hadn't seen before. "What is it?" I asked, concern mingling among the remnants of my fear. "Something's wrong," he muttered, his voice trembling despite the resolve behind his gaze. "I didn't want to tell you, but I might have more than just a customer service issue back home. You're not going to believe this." The urgency in his tone set off alarms within me once again, drowning out the noise of the cabin. My heart sank, afraid to imagine the worst, but even more unsettled by the notion of lingering shadows that blackened the bright moment we had seemed to craft together. As thoughts circled ominously in my mind, I realized the potential for turmoil was far from over. Life had presented us with a darkened labyrinth of uncertainties, and just as I felt myself gaining footing, the twist of fate now cast doubt upon everything I thought I had briefly understood. Desperation clung to the space between us, a shared uncertainty taking form. But something deep within me anchored the connection we had sparked. It whispered that whatever storm lay ahead, I was not out of options, nor alone in this crucible of the unknown. The real journey was only just beginning. The emergency exit door creaked open, and a rush of cool air enveloped us, mingling with the aftershocks of adrenaline. As the flight attendants guided everyone evacuating the aircraft, I kept my eyes fixed on Ethan, searching for reassurance amid the growing chaos. The world outside felt impossibly loud. First responders rushing to the scene, their uniforms contrasting starkly against the sky. "Shouldn't we leave?" I asked, trying to pull him away from whatever lingering dread held him captive. But his gaze remained fixated on the crowd gathering outside, those who had witnessed our turbulent descent come to life like moths drawn to the glow of a flame, drawn to his crisis point to have a friend on the outside. He's supposed to be here today. I didn't think. His voice barely rose above the din, but I could see the panic in his eyes beginning to morph into something darker, an entanglement of dread. I should have told you sooner. He might be in trouble. I, in the midst of emergency crews tending to passengers, the vibrant colors of life now tinged with tension, Ethan's confession hung heavy in the air. My pulse quickened. What do you mean trouble? Trouble how? As his silence stretched, I felt the grip of fear tightening around me once more, but I couldn't afford to yield to it when there were still lives to save, still bonds to reinforce. Ethan, I prodded gently, talk to me. Whatever it is, we can get through this together. He inhaled sharply, the raw vulnerability on his face cracking open a protective shell I hadn't seen before. He's been involved in something dangerous. A business venture gone wrong. If he's here now. His words fell away, consumed by urgency and what-ifs, manifesting into a cascade of thoughts I couldn't anticipate. What do we do? I asked, driven by an instinct to confront the storm. There was no more safe haven in denial. Please, whatever it is, let's not lose each other in this. Just as he turned to answer, a voice behind us interrupted. Ethan? There you are. We spun to find a familiar face, a striking woman with dark glasses and a professional demeanor. She had an air of authority laced with an intensity that silenced the moment. You have to come with me now. There's no time to lose. It's about Henry. I watched his face blanch anew as recognition washed over him. What do you mean? The fight that had briefly sparked in him flickered, almost extinguished in the face of this new threat downtown. Someone saw him, and she paused, as if weighing the thickness of the air against the words that might shatter the tense moment. There's a group out for him. We need to move. My grip tightened around Ethan's arm, sensing the vulnerability presenting itself between us as the woman continued, her tone clipped and urgent. I can explain later, but we're running out of time. What about the others? I interjected, desperate to keep our focus on those still rattling from the recent ordeal as the plane had rocked our lives to their core. What if we don't stop? The command had an edge, but beneath it ran sincerity, a desperate plea for cooperation. You are going to need to trust me, and quickly Ethan's eyes flicked between me and her, laden with a tumult of decisions that felt insurmountable in a mere blink. A strange sense of loyalty always trickled through him. I could see it warring with the responsibilities bearing onto him, pressing against the burgeoning connection he and I had crafted amid chaos. Ethan, I started, but he cut me off, the resolve returning in an undeniable wave. I can't leave you. Not now. If something happens to me, nothing is going to happen to you, I asserted, my voice a gentle yet firm tether battling the heaviness of despair. But if we stay, it might put everyone in danger. The leading woman narrowed her eyes, acknowledging the bond between us that could very well determine the fate of this moment. You both need to come with me. Whatever you're worried about, it can wait. Henry is in immediate danger, and you both need to protect yourselves. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a precipice, the jagged rocks at the base impossibly sharp, while the horizon set ablaze with the potential of danger and the unknown. My heart ached as I faced Ethan, the very real thought of leaving the safety of our crafted sanctuary tugging insistently at my soul. Please, he said softly, his grip unwavering on my shoulder, his eyes pleading. Stay by my side. But what if standing by his side meant walking straight into a storm brewing just beyond the edge of safety? I inhaled, the air heavy with uncertainty as the reality of our choices coalesced. Before I could voice my thoughts, a distant shout pierced through the chaos, shivering down the spine of the departing crowd. Get down. We need backups. The tension in the air coiled tighter. What remained of our choices now danced precariously in the balance, overshadowed by the mounting storm encroaching upon us. Ethan, we can't stay here. We need to decide. He held my gaze, conflict etched into every line of his face as suddenly, the weight of our connection shifted with urgency. Then let's go. Whatever happens, we face it together. With that, I took a breath and stepped toward the chaotic tide of uncertainty, my heart pounding in synchrony with the shifting shadows creeping ever closer, a revelation weaving its way into the fabric of our immediate reality. This moment would ultimately hinge on the choices we made in the face of unavoidable danger. The real journey had begun. The scene outside twisted as if caught in a storm of urgency. The air felt heavy with tension, thickening as we followed the woman toward a marked SUV parked just off the tarmac. The cacophony began to fade, replaced by my own heartbeat thumping fiercely against my ribcage. Ethan's hand remained steady on my back, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being led into something darker than we could possibly comprehend. As the SUV door swung open, I caught a glimpse of a flicker of movement across the road. An older man, graying at the temples, screaming for help. Security personnel rushed past him, but my instincts faltered as dread settled deep in my gut. I turned to Ethan, my voice strained. "What about them? We can't just. I know. I'm sorry." His eyes were wide, betraying a depth of pain that made my heart ache. "But we can't jeopardize our safety. We need to stay focused on finding Henry." The woman's sharp exhale was a reminder we didn't have the luxury of time. "Get in," she barked, urgency cloaked in a professional tone that brooked no argument. I hesitated but felt Ethan press against my back, guiding me in as he climbed in beside me. The moment the door slammed shut, leaving the chaos behind, I felt a wave of helplessness wash over me. Inside the confines of the SUV, the tension shifted but remained thick as honey. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, searching their faces for answers. "To a safe house," the woman replied, her eyes flicking briefly to the rearview mirror as she pulled away, just as sirens wailed in the distance. "We need to regroup and plan our next move. Henry is in over his head, but if we can reach him before they do." Ethan shifted beside me, his body tense, a coiled spring ready to snap. "Do you know who is after him? What did he get himself into?" Her silence dripped like heavy rain, punctuated by an unnerving calmness that filled the air, wrapping around us like a shroud. "I'd like to tell you everything, but it's not safe here. You need to trust me, that's all I can say for now." The knowledge that we were entangled in something far beyond our understanding strangled my breath. Still, I reached for Ethan's hand, intertwining my fingers with his, grounding myself in his presence as we navigated this unpredictable storm. "What if something happens? What if we lose each other?" "Then we'll fight to find our way back," he replied, his voice steady. "We've come too far to let fear dictate our choices." Outside, the city whizzed by in a blur, the lights twisting into a dazzling palette racing against the encroaching night. Shadows loomed, stretching across the concrete, as if urging us to remember the dangers lurking just beyond the sanctuary of metal and glass. The SUV turned sharply down an alley, and I felt the sudden weight of isolation settle in the pit of my stomach. It was a stark reminder that safety was both a fleeting illusion and an ungraspable concept in this unforgiving world. "What if this is a trap?" I whispered, shivers coursing down my spine. Ethan kept his gaze focused ahead, but I could see the flickering worry in his brow. "We have to trust her for now. We don't have many options." He hesitated, and in his silence, chose to embrace the bond between us. "I refuse to lose you, not like this." As the SUV inched to a halt, the woman turned, her expression softening just enough for us to glimpse the humanity beneath her tough exterior. "We'll figure this out together. And I promise, you two will be safe here." The door swung open, and the light from a nearby street lamp cut across the interior of the vehicle, illuminating our uncertainty. I climbed out and scanned the vicinity, the air carrying an underlying hum of unease. Behind us, the muffled thud of footsteps echoed in percussion with the distant sirens, drawing nearer. "Stay close," the woman ordered as she moved towards a nondescript door, and through that doorway lay a flicker of hope trapped within shadows. The sudden realization hit me, a frenzied panic rising in my chest like bile. If Henry really had gotten himself into something dangerous, what did that mean for us? Each moment drew us deeper into this intricate web of fear and desperation. As we crossed into the dim light of the safe house, a chill ran down my spine. It was all too still, too quiet. Just when I thought desperate calm could overpower chaos, a chilling voice emerged from the darkness that filled the room. "So, you brought the strays. Nice work, Amelia." My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the speaker figure stepped forward, his features shadowed but unmistakably familiar. A cold wave crashed over me. The storm within was far more potent than I realized, and now the stakes were set. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, Ethan's grip tightened around my arm, an instinctive reaction that promised he wouldn't let go without a fight. "Get away from her!" he shouted, a protective surge enveloping him, heart pounding against the hub of chaos erupting anew. There, in that unforgiving moment, the realization loomed: this journey we had undertaken held secrets waiting to unravel. And with it, the watertight connection we'd built felt precariously adrift, trapped in our own coming storm. The silence that enveloped the room was thick, charged with unspoken tension. Time seemed to stretch, each heartbeat echoing loudly in my ears as the figure emerged fully into the tepid light. My breath seized as I recognized him, Marcus, an old friend from college, a man I had once known as an ally. Yet, his eyes were no longer the warm blue I remembered, they were fierce, glinting with an unsettling mix of ambition and malice. "Marcus," I managed to whisper, uncertainty lacing my voice. My heartbeat drummed louder, filling the silence as I struggled to comprehend the implications of his presence here. Now, at this moment, Ethan moved in front of me, his stance protective, his body taut, an unyielding wall against the past that had so suddenly come crashing into our present. "What do you want with her?" he growled, his voice low but fierce, grounding me against the wave of confusion washing over. Marcus' lips twisted into a smirk that sent a chill racing down my spine. "I want what's rightfully mine, Ethan. And I believe Sophie has something in her possession that could lead me straight to it." He took a step closer, the air growing thick with tension as I shifted awkwardly, feeling trapped between conflicting loyalties. "What are you talking about?" I asked, voice trembling with confusion. I didn't understand. What could I possibly have that Marcus wanted? Anxiety coiled tightly in my chest, my past colliding violently with the present. "Oh, Sophie," he said, feigning sweetness, "you're the key. Henry has something he didn't tell you, something valuable to a lot of powerful people. And you being here? Well, it just makes this all so much easier." A deep, unsettling truth hung in the air like a storm cloud just waiting to unleash its fury. "You know where he is?" I half asked, half demanded. Henry was missing, his silence an abyss that threatened to swallow me whole. I had to cling to hope, to the sliver of guidance that Marcus might accidentally provide amidst his treachery. "That's the thing," he replied, stepping closer, invading the small bubble of protection that Ethan had created around me. "Henry's gotten mixed up with people who don't take kindly to his little risk-taking ventures. He's put himself in a position where if anyone finds him, it won't just be a family reunion." Fear crept up my spine like icy fingers. "You know where he is?" I pressed, desperation clawing at my throat. A flash of something regret, perhaps, passed across Marcus' face before it was replaced by cold determination. "I can help you, but you need to understand that I can't do this for free. You bring me what I want, and then I'll bring you Henry." I glanced at Ethan, searching for the strength to combat the swirling storm of thoughts threatening to consume me. "What does he want?" I asked quietly, but even as the question fell from my lips, doubt simmered in my gut. I was terrified of what Marcus might demand: information. Access to that little hidden agenda of his, the one that has everyone on their toes. "And let's not pretend you're not already in it," he replied, leaning forward, eyes bright with ambition. "No. Not like this." The words tumbled from my lips, clinging to the fleeting hope that there must be another way. "You can't use my brother like this." His laughter echoed off the walls, it was the sound of a cold wind sweeping through trees, devoid of warmth. "Oh, but Sophie, I believe you underestimate your worth in this equation." A hardened silence fell around us again as I battled with the realization that Marcus had re-emerged as a puppet master, strings ready to tug on a life I had thought secure. The room, previously a sanctuary, now bristled with danger. Before I could form my next thought, Ethan's grip tightened further, his arm anchoring me to him as Marcus surveyed us like a predator sizing up his prey. "What do you know?" he demanded, and the defiance swirled around us like a tempest. There was a moment, just a heartbeat, where I could sense Ethan's uncertainty, his contemplation before he gathered his resolve, muttering, "We don't owe him anything." His voice was steady, but I could feel the tremor underneath, fluttering with the reality of our precarious situation. No? Marcus challenged, an imperceptible smile playing at the corner of his lips, anticipating the upheaval that was sure to follow. I think the stakes are much higher than you realize. I recommend you choose your next words wisely, Sophie. Suddenly, a shrill sound pierced through the tense stillness. The phone in Ethan's pocket buzzed to life, a blaring alarm that felt almost like a warning. My heart raced, the sound echoing as everything hung in the balance. The fragile web we had woven threatened to unravel before my eyes. Do you hear that? I pronounced urgently. What if it's nothing? Just a distraction, Marcus interrupted, his voice tinted with annoyance. Yet, as the phone continued to vibrate, clawing through the thick tension, I could see his carefully crafted mask slipping, revealing a glimmer of something, fear or anger. The phone continued to ring, pressing against the fabric of doubt that draped over us. I took a step back, pulling Ethan with me, caught in the crossfire of choices and betrayals. The walls felt like they were closing in, tightening around me, and I wondered if the storm I was trying to navigate was about to consume us all. Just as I turned to Ethan, searching for clarity, understanding, or maybe just a catalyst for determination, another figure appeared in the corner of the room, a woman, strikingly fierce and unsudden, her presence cutting through the tension like glass shattering. With a calculated smirk, she crossed her arms, her eyes shining. What's this? Trouble brewing? I do hope I'm not too late. Every ounce of stability I had fought to cling to slipped just a little more as the room grew darker, the shadows loomed larger, and I realized the storm was only just beginning. The air felt electric as the woman stood before us, her sharp gaze piercing through the storm of emotions swirling in the cramped room. I felt the weight of her presence without understanding why. Ethan's protective posture shifted slightly, the momentary distraction allowing an unspoken acknowledgement of her authority. Who are you? He asked, his voice steady but laced with curiosity and a hint of wariness. Let's just say I'm someone who prefers to keep her enemies at arm's length, she replied, her tone seasoned with a hint of mockery. Her lips curled into a smile, but her eyes remained cold, calculating. And friends even closer. What do you want? I managed to ask, the words spilling out before my racing heart could catch up. Same as everyone, darling, she said, eyeing Marcus with a glint of challenge. I'm here for what's mine. Marcus inhaled sharply, the smug bravado from moments before faltering momentarily. You shouldn't be here, Lila, he said, his voice suddenly tinged with something akin to fear. Oh, but I see no one can help but gather around the chaos, she chuckled, her gaze sweeping over us before focusing back on Ethan. Doesn't this situation just reek of desperation? You'd think a couple of intelligent people wouldn't trap themselves in a room with someone who holds all the cards. Ethan shared a glance with me, own filled with confusion and doubt. This was not the kind of interaction I had expected, and truthfully, neither was it what I needed. What was she doing here? I had imagined Marcus as the sole player in this dangerous dance, but now it seemed the stage had expanded, and I had no idea what role I was meant to play. What do you know about Henry? I asked, my voice steady even though my heart was pounding against my ribs. The mention of my brother brought urgency to my tongue. Lila's eyes sparkled with intrigue, revealing a flash of something far less benign than friendly curiosity. Now that's a question worth answering, she replied, stepping forward, directly meeting my gaze. But the conditions for getting answers have changed, sweetheart. It felt like a code shared in the dark, and I wasn't sure if I could decipher it. Everything hinged on this woman's whim, and my desperation made me vulnerable. What do you want from me? Simple, she said, tilting her head slightly, her interest piqued. You need information, and I need someone who isn't afraid to tread into the shadows. The question is, are you willing to do whatever it takes? Because I assure you, you may not like how deep this rabbit hole goes. Ethan stepped forward, a silent reminder of his steadfast presence beside me. What's your angle? Why do you care if we find Henry or not? His voice dripped with skepticism, challenging Lilith's all too cozy demeanor. I care about power, darling. And power is often found in knowing things others don't, she said, her expression darkening. If you're willing to ally yourself with me, there's a chance to save your brother. Alone? You won't get far. The pieces of this twisted puzzle were becoming clearer, yet more complicated by the second. I thought of Henry, his laughter, his dreams, the endless paths he had paved for himself leading to this moment of darkness. The desperation to save him became an edge that cut deep, tugging me toward Lilith's beckoning lure. Okay, I said, swallowing the nauseating cocktail of fear and hope. What do I have to do? She smiled, a predatory glimmer in her eye. Follow me. Just as I began to step forward, the air crackled again. The phone in Ethan's pocket buzzed relentlessly as if urging me to reconsider. I glanced at him, uncertainty etched on both our faces, but he nodded, his expression a mix of determination and loyalty. I felt the bond between us solidify. We were not just in this together, we had to be each other's anchors in the dark waters that lay ahead. Lila turned on her heel, exuding the confidence of someone entirely in control. Time to meet some players in this game, she said over her shoulder, unaware of the turmoil brewing inside me. The last vestiges of safety evaporated as we followed her down the dim hallway, a gnawing sense of dread gnashing its teeth as we walked. Each footfall felt laden with uncertain destiny. The allegiances were shifting, and I had the feeling we were trading one cage for another, one web for a more complex one. As we reached the end of the corridor, Lila paused before unlocking a door that creaked ominously as it opened, revealing a room filled with swirling shadows and whispers, the kind that made skin crawl with the way they wrapped around unspoken intentions. Welcome to the dark side, she said, stepping in. Where everyone has secrets, and I simply collect debts. And just then, before I could muster the courage to doubt the path that loomed ahead of us, the voice from the shadows spoke, sending chills racing down my spine. You shouldn't have come here, Sophie. It was Henry's voice, a ghost rising amid the clamor of the unknown, a confession wrapped in chilling certainty. The revelation sent my heart plummeting, spiraling into an abyss of dread and chaos as the door swung shut behind us, sealing the fate of what lay ahead. The room was suffocating, the air thick with a tension so palpable it was almost a presence of its own. I blinked into the shadows, searching for a familiar form, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my chest as though trying to break free. Henry? I whispered, the sound barely escaping my lips. The shadows shifted, revealing a figure gathered in darkness, yet the man before me was not the brother I remembered. Gone was Henry's playful demeanor, his spontaneous laughter haunted by an undercurrent of desperation. He looked older, wearier, as if life had seeped much of his spirit away. Sophie, he finally said, his voice cracking like brittle glass. You shouldn't be here. You need to leave. The depth of his concern hit me like a wave crashing against a rocky shore, but I wasn't going to let this moment slip away so easily. I came to find you. I need to know what happened, I pressed, fighting against the urgency that twisted in my gut. Lila lingered near the door, watching the exchange with a predatory grin, enjoying the show of familial tension. Whatever Lila has promised you, it's a trap. Henry's voice was low, each word heavy with urgency. She's not to be trusted. Then help me understand. Help me save you. I urged, taking a small step forward. I could almost feel the culmination of every thread leading me to this pivotal moment, the deep-rooted hope entwined with the shadows that clung to my brother. I can't, he said, his eyes darting to Lila, who leaned casually against the wall, awaiting her moment. There are forces at play that you don't understand. Lila, she draws people in with false promises. He turned back to meet my gaze, deep concern flowing through every contour of his face. You're in danger, Sophie. Ethan stood beside me, protective as always, reading the intensity of Henry's gaze. We can help you, but you need to trust us, he said, nesting a firm hand against my back, a silent promise of solidarity. Trust her? Henry scoffed incredulously. How can you trust anyone in a place like this? She'll use you both, like a pawn in her game. Lila rolled her eyes, unnaturally amused with Henry's accusation. Oh, please. I'm not the villain here. I'm merely offering a way out. A means to an end. Another step forward from her, and the atmosphere in the room shifted as she repositioned herself squarely in the middle of the fray, her intentions now clear, a puppeteer all too eager to pull the strings. But the truth is, Henry, you make this far more complicated than it needs to be. You're the only one standing in the way of Sophie claiming what's rightfully hers, rightfully mine? My voice quavered, confusion and disbelief mixing into an emotional cocktail that felt toxic to drink. Lilith's eyes twinkled with a mischievous glee as if she wanted to watch the sparks fly. Your brother here has a wealth of knowledge and connections, isn't that right? Unraveling the family secrets could be an incredibly rewarding endeavor for you. Sophie, stop it. Henry growled, shaking his head vehemently. You don't know what lies beneath. What it took to then help me understand. I interrupted, desperation lining my voice as I took another step toward him, my palms clammy, as if touching the truth would ignite a flame instead of burn me. Lilith's laugh echoed like shattering glass, mocking the riptide of emotion swirling in the room. There's no room for heroes here, darling. This is about survival, my survival and Henry's. Helping him is helping yourself, but what did that mean for me? 1,000 questions swirled in my mind, but one thing remained clear. I couldn't save him by just trusting her words while a storm brewed on the horizon. Doesn't matter what she wants, Henry said, voice shaking now with a mix of urgency and compassion. You're stronger than this, Sophie. You can't get caught up in her schemes. You have to leave, but the fight had drained out of me. My hope was a dim ember almost snuffed out, and terror clawed at my insides. Lila, entertained by the drama, stepped closer, her voice a silky venom that curled around my uncertainty. You think you're the one who has to save him? No, sweetheart, you're here to save yourself. But it's never going to be that easy when shadows chase you. And just then, the room's atmosphere thickened, the shadow at the far corner darkening and elongating as if something else was clawing its way into this already fraught space. What is that? I breathed, my heart ricocheting off the walls as a chill snaked down my spine. The shadows danced to a new fear, taking form within them, and my stomach twisted sickeningly as the darkness settled into an undeniable shape, the familiar outline of someone I never thought I'd see again, someone from my past long buried beneath hurt and loss. Ethan, I managed barely above a whisper as recognition dawned, bringing with it an avalanche of memories, old confessions, hidden truths, and unhealed wounds. The corners of my world shifted, revealing unseen connections that spiraled back to haunt us all. Looks like the plot thickens, Lila hissed, eyes alight with a twisted joy, her gaze flickering to Henry, then back to the emerging figure. Welcome back into the fold. The revelation of the hidden ties between us all pushed forward like an avalanche. I could feel the walls closing in, setting this dark web into a chaotic motion, tightening, threatening to choke the light from my world. With a surge of raw emotion, I stepped back, realizing the trap we had blundered into with our eyes wide open, and yet not truly seeing. What had I done that had led us into this maelstrom of shadows? And in that moment, I felt the ground beneath my feet buckle, and the gravity of our choices pulled us closer to some unknown consequence lurking just beneath the surface, an impossible choice that still lay in waiting within the depths of the dark side I had inadvertently entered. The air hung heavy with unspoken truths as the figure stepped from the shadows, and my heart raced as recognition brought forth a cascade of conflicting emotions. Ethan's presence ignited a whirlwind inside me, blending memories of our shared laughter with an agony I thought I had long since buried. I stared at him, desperate for some sign of the man I once knew, but all I saw was the same fragile hope flickering in his eyes, the same hope that had betrayed me in the past. What are you doing here? I managed to voice through the turmoil, my mind scrambling for context. Each beat of my heart echoed with uncertainty, drowning me in possibilities I feared to explore. Ethan looked between Henry and Lila, confusion mirrored in his expression. I came to find you, Sophie, he stuttered, taking a step forward as if to bridge the chasm that widened with every passing second. I heard things. I thought you were in danger. Danger? From Lila, or from our own blood? Henry's voice was thick with incredulity, and for a moment, I marveled at the fierce loyalty that seemed to unite him with Ethan. My brother's desperation was a stark reminder of the bonds that once held our lives together, even as they now threatened to unravel. Lilith's laughter hung like poison in the air. Oh, isn't this touching? She mocked, crossing her arms in delight. Two men vying for the sweet little girl's heart while she stands on the precipice of a very dangerous game. How charming. The sting of her words poured salt into old wounds. I was not a damsel to be fought over. This isn't about me. I fired back, frustration spilling over. This is about Henry. About family. Henry's eyes flashed with emotion, hurt, anger, and a glint of something deeper as he stepped forward, challenging the tension enveloping us. Family? You mean the family that abandoned me? The very ties that bind us are the shackles constraining us from the truth. Suddenly, the room felt smaller, the air more oppressive as old grievances surfaced, clawing at the fragile lines that had decided our relationships. I felt torn, one part of me wanting to defend our past, to protect the fleeting semblance of family we had left, while another was suffocated under the weight of betrayal. Ethan stepped toward me, concern clouding his handsome features, and whispered, "Sophie, please. We can't let her manipulate us. We need to confront whatever's lurking in the darkness." But his words also pricked at the wounds I had tried to heal. What darkness, Ethan? All of this, I gestured in despair. It's none of it makes sense. I thought I was looking for answers, but now it feels like a trap. Perhaps it is, Lila chimed, a smile dancing on her lips, dark and taunting. But the question is, are you strong enough to face what you uncover? To conquer the shadows that haunt your family's legacy? I felt a chill creeping into the depths of my soul, and in that moment, the shadows began to writhe and twist around the edges of my vision, as if they had a life of their own. I turned to Ethan, searching for reassurance in his brown eyes, but even as he reached out for me, I sensed the fear encircling us, the thin metallic taste of betrayal still lingering in the air. Don't listen to her, Sophie, Henry rasped, his voice trembling with urgency. Lila feeds on fear, on doubt. Stick to what you know, to what pulls you back. Let echoes of the past guide you. A sudden, jarring realization hit me like a wave crashing against cliffs. Echoes of the past? I whispered, the weight of those words settling around us like a shroud. What do you know? But before anyone could respond, a tremor in the ground beneath our feet drew our attention. Panic surged through the room as the shadows morphed into something altogether more tangibly, a mass that seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of its own. Shapes of lost memories flickered and faded, teasingly out of reach. Sophie, we need to leave now. Ethan shouted, pulling my arm urgently, but the tendrils of darkness entwined and wrapped around my legs, a paralyzing grip that hindered my escape. Your choice, Sophie, Lila sang, reveling in the chaos. Stay and discover the truth, or flee and remain forever trapped in your ignorance. I wavered, caught between the flash of Ethan's encouraging gaze and Henry's resolute conviction. My heart raced, the life I once knew teetering on the brink of a legendary revelation, but the cost hung heavy in the air, demanding my attention, demanding a sacrifice. Your choice will seal your fate, Lila whispered, leaning closer as the shadows pulsed with an insistent rhythm, beckoning me like a siren with a promise of ancient knowledge. As I struggled against the bonds of uncertainty, the ground trembled beneath me again, swaying like a ship caught in a storm. I felt the walls close in, yet there was a flicker of light, fleeting but fierce. Would I risk everything to uncover the truth, no matter the threat pulling me under? Or would I allow fear to dictate the course of my life? Yet again, with my heart pounding, I took a breath, preparing to make a choice, the most significant one yet. What darkness awaited me? Only time would reveal the consequences of my decision, but I could already feel the weight of the future closing in, and then it hit me. I had a decision to make, one that might change everything. But as I opened my mouth to voice my choice, the entire room began to spin, and the shadow's call grew deafening, swallowing my resolve whole. The room pitched violently, the shadows swirling around us like a tempest, weaving despair with hidden truths. I felt the pulse of my heart hammering against my chest, every beat a question, every breath a fleeting gasp for understanding. As the constraints of the moment pressed against me, I realized my fate hinged on one single choice: to embrace the darkness knowingly or turn away. Stay and discover the truth, Lila hissed, her voice dripping with malice, or run and remain forever trapped. I took a deep breath, the air thick with dread and uncertainty. I won't be trapped anymore, I declared, the tremor in my voice fading with newfound resolve. I choose to face the truth. Ethan's grip on my hand tightened, his eyes reflecting the same determination that flared within me. We'll face it together. No shadows can hold us captive. Henry's expression morphed, the alarm flickering into something akin to pride. You're stronger than you know, Sophie. Fight, if you must. Lila's laughter sliced through the air, but I could feel the subtle shift beneath her bravado, her composure faltering just enough to affirm my resolve. Strength doesn't equate to wisdom, darling, you're wading into treachery without understanding the depths. As her taunts filled the air, I felt the ground shift beneath me, the pressure built until I couldn't discern where the shadows ended and we began. No. I shouted, an insistent whisper behind the memories urging me to forge ahead. With every ounce of conviction surging through me, I moved forward, determined to break the cycle of fear. That was when I conjured the image of my best friend, distant yet ever present, reminding me that human connections were the true anchors, the light piercing through the shadows. I stepped closer to Henry. Tell me what I need to know. I won't run from my family, or the legacy we've built, and I won't let Lila manipulate us any longer. Lila's facade cracked, her confidence wavering as I approached the unknown depths of my family's tangled past. You think you have the upper hand, don't you? She sneered, her composure slipping like sand through an hourglass. But you're merely a pawn in a game far beyond your grasp. I felt a newfound warmth envelop my heart, an assurance that now surged within me. Consider me a king, then. I'm done playing down to your level. In that pivotal moment, the tendrils of darkness began to recede, revealing shapes I had long since buried, a history of love, laughter, and the legacy of my family that swirled around the fragments of my consciousness. We'll confront every ounce of darkness together, I vowed quietly. Henry stepped forward, side by side with Ethan, our connection uniting us against the storm. What's hidden within our past, we must uncover, but together we'll forge our path and rewrite the narrative. Could I truly confront the labyrinth of emotions that surrounded my family? The secrets interwoven with regret and love? Determined to find the answers, I felt the shadows warp beneath my feet, an invitation rather than a threat. Join me, and together we'll get to the core of this, I said to Henry, my voice steady. None can take away our bond as siblings. The darkness won't win today. Enough. Lila shouted, her eyes frantic as if trying to reclaim dominion over the shadows that were slipping away. You don't know what you're inviting, but I had tasted the bitterness of fear long enough to recognize the power hidden within. What I'm inviting is honesty, freedom, and the choice to take back what was lost. Whatever happens now, I won't let anyone control my fate. In one unified motion, Ethan, Henry, and I stepped forward, our hands clasping as light began to envelop the darkness. It was raw and beautiful, the fierce love of family, fortifying against despair. Lila's presence flickered as if the force of our bond extinguished her hold. You've made a grave mistake, she shouted, the shadow shrieking in protest. The room shook. Together we shouted as the brilliance surged, pushing against the darkness that had wrapped its condescending grip over us for too long, and just like that, everything erupted into a kaleidoscope of sound and light, the darkness fracturing like glass, scattering, allowing beams of hope to fill the void. As we fought against Lila, and against our own shadows of uncertainty, I could see Henry and Ethan battling beside men not as pawns but as warriors ready to unravel what lay ahead. The storm cleared, and suddenly, we stood in a dimly lit room, the tension lifting like fog. I could feel my breath, feel the warmth radiate from my companions. This wasn't the end, it was merely the moment where the shadows began to disperse, where the truth formed a bridge connecting our fractured past. What could they take from me now? Nothing. I realized the power of my voice, the strength of choices refined in darkness but polished by love. This is just the beginning, I whispered, the echo affirming the power the three of us created. And as we faced whatever came next, I finally understood. I was no longer the woman in row 12F, forgotten and shamed. I was Sophie, a force of resilience, unyielding, and armed with a family that would chase down every mystery until every truth emerged. In that moment, we didn't just fight the shadows, they served to illuminate the light we each carried within. As the first light of dawn broke through the remnants of night, I whispered, through shadows, we will find the strength to shine undeniably bright.